Hello everyone. In this video, we're going to show you how using Airtable Custom Block SDK you can fetch cell values of every single field like this. So without wasting time, let's dive right into the code base and see how we can do it. Let's start with a simple hello world example of custom blocks. So where do you begin from first? First, we began with fetching the base, all the data of the base. So, how do we do that? We do that by using a use base hooks. So, let's import a use base hook. Once we import the use base hook, let's apply it here. Constant base use base. Now let's drill down one step for below, because we don't need just the base, we also need the data of the table itself. So let's declare constant table that will use the base variable, and then base get table by name. The name is Forex cards. Now, another drill down. We don't need just the table data. We need the data of the entire record, all the records to be more precise. So, let's do that. Now, to get that, we use the use records hook. Use records. This fetches all the records within a table. Use records, and now we specify the table Forex card through this. Now let's go one step behind. We got the records right, but what we need to do is prepare all the data before the component starts to render, and for that we need to use loadable. So let's import that hook as well. Use loadable. First you do use loadable. Now within use loadable will mount and unmount the data on the basis of what model will it be reading. In this case, let us use that as on the basis of the cursor. So here we get the cursor, import cursor from Airtable. But mind you, this is not the blocks UI folder, just the blocks folder. And now mention that here. Now we need to also watch the IDs, because let's say you have loaded all the data, but when you move across the table like this, who watches all that? For that, you need to import use watchable. Let's use watchable hook. So use watchable is also gonna monitor the cursor and selected record IDs. And let's not stop here. Let's also import selected field IDs. Now we have these two values. Let's see if we can render that in our custom block. Let's do that. Div selected record ID, cursor dot selected record IDs. And let's do the same with this selected field IDs. Once we're done with that, let's see if it's showing. There you go. Now you can see the record IDs are changing as we go through this. And now if we move horizontally, the field ID changes. Beautiful, isn't it? But that's not what we really want. We want the values of these ID, not just the record ID and field ID, the values within these cells. So let's see how we can get that. Remember, we had imported records. We have all the data in the record. Wanna see? Sure. Console.log records. Let's clean up the console, and there you go. The entire record is here. All 17 of them. Now, that's not what we want. We want the exact precise record on which we are placing our cursor. So let's get that one. How do we get that? Records.find. Let's go with the value here. And if, what's the value we're finding? Finding here the selected records. But be mindful, it's going to give you a set of records, not one. So in this case, let us just make sure we show the first selected record, not all of them. So first selected record needs to be equal to value dot underscore ID, and the moment it's done that, you return that value. And let's hold that in a selected ID constant. So once we get that, let's say, can we display that in a log? Console.log selected ID, get value as a string, and that returns the value of the cell. And now within that cell, we need to pass the field ID. Yeah, I know you know it. Still, let's check it in the console.log. Let's clean it up. And there you go. All the values of every cell right in our console. But can we just not render it in our custom block here? Let's try that. For that, we can just declare a local state. Let's do that. Cell value and set cell value. Now use state hook. Since initialize it as a string, because that's the type of value you'll be storing in this. And let's save it and display it here. So there you go. We have it now, and we need to set the value, right? So Let's see, that should work, right? Ouch, it didn't. Too many re-renders. React limits the number of renders to prevent an infinite loop. That means this whole line is running too many times. And that's not good. We need to place this line only when the value changes in the cell, or we are going through a new cell. We are watching a new cell, to be more precise. So we need to do a more effective placing of this function. So where do we put? We put it in the callback of useWatchable. So let's place it here. And we copy this code. We copy finding it and setting the state. Both of them right here. Now, let's see what does that do. We click here. You can get all the values now of the records. But what about other fields other than name field? Yep, you can get all the values of every field. Isn't that beautiful? I know it is. Thank you and see you soon.